We'll discuss today about our journey at eMAG in the past year and a half, where we've been tasked to accelerate time to insight. This is something that it's really hard to measure, as you can imagine, but we started doing it anyway. A bit about eMAG. This is a company coming from Romania. It started in 2001 and as an IT commerce. It expanded its category range and you can basically find almost everything now. It also started operating in Bulgaria and Hungary. We launched a marketplace in 2011. At first we were selling only first-party product. We're part of the Naspers process group since 2012. And now eMAG is a group of companies. We invested in a courier, which is called Same Day, in a fashion e-commerce, that's Fashion Days, food delivery, Taz and Fresh Food. This might not be very known to you, but this is how people are shopping in Eastern Europe. A bit about me. I'm a software developer as formation. I finished the Polytechnica University in Bucharest. I've been working as a software development up until 2020. I've been working in eMAG since 2011, started as a software developer and worked my way in management. In 2020, I was offered the opportunity to take over the business intelligence department and to bring some software development practices to BI. And I've seen earlier in the keynote the Accelerate book being mentioned, and I've been trying to bring those concepts into data and BI. Our team is still called Business Intelligence, but it does everything you'd expect from a data team. How BI started at eMAG we had a ClickView server that was connecting to the three applications that we were using from the start, and we had front end, a website, we had a back end which was still order processing application, and we had an ERP. Now, in over 15 years, this has scaled to hundreds of applications, and it has scaled not in a strategic way. No one says this is how it should scale. People developed their own software in different ways, but BI remained pretty much the same. We had more ClickView servers connecting to more applications, building larger and larger reports. These reports ended up having tens of gigabytes in size. They were taking hours, and I mean over 10 hours or over 12 hours to refresh. And then once you had the data, they were so big that you could not join them with other reports. Now, when someone asked for a change, what we did many times was we copied one of those reports and we made a few changes, and then there you go, you have another version of it. Now, a few years ago, the data started to be used in new ways. What was happening before is that people were getting those ClickView reports and they were just exporting the data to Excel. And then joining different Excel files. It's been enough for many years. But at some point, new kinds of use cases appeared. We had data science teams that were consuming the data. People wanted to use the data back in applications. And they said, well, I can see it in ClickView, it's there, I can see it in the reports, why can't I have it? And it was hard to explain why they cannot have it, and they ended up still exporting it to Excel or CSV and importing it manually. At some point a few years ago, we started with a big data team as a pilot, and at first we implemented a few projects, they went well, and then we started moving more and more projects to this data. We needed a way to access the power of big data easier, because I will show you now how the team was structured, and it's been discussed earlier. I've seen it 2 times already today, the inverse Conway maneuver. The organization of your teams is very important to the architecture that you end up with. So when I took over the department, it was organized like this. We had 6 reporting teams that were using ClickView and ClickSense, 1 data warehouse team, 1 big data team, and 1 data science team. And what was happening when someone was asking for something new, the request was going to either the data warehouse or either the big data team. They were implementing some pipelines, they were creating the data sets, and then some of the reporting teams were building a report on that data. And this was taking months in order to develop, because guess what? The data warehouse team and the big data team soon became bottlenecks. And also the big data team became more of a bottleneck as more people wanted to use that power that I was mentioning earlier. Now we realize we have all these problems, but we try to define one problem that we need to solve, and to look in the market and see what we can use. And that problem was what we called the 4P overview. We had already 2 reports, and that were the biggest, and one was the first party report, the products that are sold by eMAG, and the other was the third party report, which are marketplace products. And these are huge reports that include all kinds of data, and they were crashing a lot. They were taking forever to refresh, and at some point we've been asked to build a report to combine those 2 reports. And you'll see that people still ask us for reports, because this is what they're used to. But what happens is that they usually need data, because they're using reports to export to Excel. And what they usually want, they want the data, not actually reports, but they are asking for reports. Now, these reports that we had were keeping only 2 years of data, and our customers, our internal customers, of course, they wanted to access much more data. They want the whole history. So now we said that we have all kinds of new use cases, and it was clear that all our data needed to be queried with SQL for dashboards, for ad hoc analysis. People are asking questions every day. We have the data science teams, and we have data science teams in different parts of the organization. eMAG is something like 7,000, has something about 7,000 employees, most of them working in warehouses, but just so you have an idea. So it happens that some teams show up in different places in the company that are supposed to make data analysis, and I don't even know about them. So we need a way to make the data available for them in an easy way. And of course, the applications always want to get the data back so they can make decisions. Now, in solving this issue, in building this 4P overview, we set up some requirements. We said that we should be able to query the datasets with good speed. We should have good development speed, and this one is the trickiest because as I said, we had 6 teams working with ClickView. Now these guys know the business very well, and you cannot go and just buy some Python programmers or some Scala programmers that are gonna take up the business knowledge from these guys very fast. But what these guys know, they know SQL, and this would using them to build with SQL would give us development speed. Cost is of course important. What we also wanted was on-premises and cloud flexibility. So we wanted to use, if possible, the same solution on-prem and on-cloud. We have lots of data on-prem, and moving to cloud is not as easy as some people make you think. And one thing that we were aware of is that if you take whatever mess you have on premises and move it to cloud, it will cost a lot. So if your infrastructure is not built for cloud, you will still have to find a way to keep some things on premises and some things on cloud. Yeah, usability for the existing team is using SQL, as I said, and we needed a solution that is open, that integrates very well with existing tools in our ecosystems. Now, what we did, we tested several query engines and data warehouses on the use case that we had. It took us a lot only to build the data set, because our pipelines, and I've heard stories like this from many other places. Our pipelines were not actually pipelines. They were reports, ClickView reports. And they were connecting to the source databases, and they were doing some click script there and building some data that was ready to be exported to Excel. So what we did, we used that processing and we dumped the data, and the first thing was to make sure that we can query that data fast enough. Now, many of the solutions that we looked into required complex ETL pipelines. They were not able to work without backend pipeline, and we didn't have many of those pipelines. Many other solutions needed some other tooling for searching data, for discovering data, or for documenting data, for lineage. And we just didn't have all those things in place, and we needed some fast results. Now, one of the solutions that we tested was Dremio, and it proved to be, for our use case, the fastest query engine. And then we discovered reflections that helped us even further. Reflections are some aggregations on the data sources that you have, and I'll show you an example later. So another thing that made us choose Dremio was that we easily replicated on-premises workload to cloud, and Dremio Cloud was not even available at the point when we did this, but we deployed Dremio to cloud, and we managed to have the same interface towards the users without changing much in the backend. Now, the current architecture that we have after implementing Dremio is, you'll see at the left, we still have most of the old mess that we had. We have application databases, we have a Microsoft SQL data warehouse, we have an on-premises data lake on Hadoop, we have some data in S3, and this is I cannot even begin to say how simplified this is. So we have hundreds of data sources in all kinds of ways. And what we're doing, we're putting Dremio as a semantic layer in front of all those things. And we are exporting data automatically, even from click view. That processed data, we're exporting it to CSV and then querying directly. We are connecting Dremio directly to our warehouse, to our data warehouse. We're even connecting it directly to MySQL databases and join it with data coming from Hadoop. And then interrogate this data with Tableau, with Click, with K9, with Converge, and all kinds of other tools that can speak SQL. And this is very important because the people have a place where the data is. So they get there and they can consume it right away. Even if behind Dremio we have all kinds of things. Some are more modern, some are legacy things. So I will give you an example now where we've been asked. We had for some time a call center software that's called Mediatel, and people were wanting to get data about calls and join it with data about orders and join it with data from Salesforce and make some analysis on it. And we had actually no pipelines doing this, and even more, we were not sure that it's going to bring much value. So what we did is we connected Dremio directly to the call center software database, which is Microsoft SQL. And we then started building layered views, what Dremio calls virtual data sets. And we derived those data sets from this data source. And then we join it with data from Salesforce. We also join it with data from that 4P overview dataset that we built earlier for our use case. And building this stuff is all done with familiar SQL that all our developers know and can use right away. And this lineage is built automatically. So when you use a dataset, you know where it comes from. You have an idea that what kind of messy system in the back you have the data coming from. Now, at some point along the way, we add some reflection, because getting the data from Microsoft SQL, for example, and joining it with some data from Salesforce, of course, depending on queries, it can get really slow. But at some point, when you have a dataset that you're sure you want to use, you just build a reflection on it. So you will have one job running every once in a while that fetches the data from all the sources and builds an aggregated dataset that you can use in your analysis. Then we point Tableau at this dataset, and we get subsequent queries, and it works just like this. It's something that you can build in less than an hour, and you can see if it works, if it helps you. Now, at this point, I have business off my back, so they are doing their thing. Of course, I can build better pipelines. I can get the data out of Microsoft SQL. I can join it in whatever jobs I want to build. But then, once I build those new pipelines, the interface to the user in Dremio remains the same. I can just change those VDSs in the back to change sources, but this whole thing remains transparent for my users. Now, for some results, I have lots of business teams doing now ad hoc analysis with minimum BI involvement. And this is important. Even if we have a team of something like 100 people in our centralized data team, we're still not able to respond to any questions that we get. So people being able to come in and if they know SQL, they will get their data in SQL and make their analysis. If they're using Tableau, okay, they can use Tableau and find some data sets that they can use. I've seen people using K9. I didn't even know we had that software in the company, but they are getting value out of it. We have people getting that data and replicating it to BigQuery or whatever, but the data is there and it allows people to search for it and find it and find some documentation on it. So we have a marketplace team of data analysts that are using Dremio a lot to make their own analysis, and they only come to us when they find some data source that's not integrated yet. And we are integrating that data source or joining it with some other else, and they can do their own last mile analysis. And that last mile analysis is the one that can take lots of time for a data team. We have finance using a lot this ecosystem. We have customer care also using a lot what we've built. We have the local teams in Hungary and Bulgaria, because what happens is when you have smaller business units, they tend not to get as much attention from the headquarters as the larger business units. But when you enable them, when they get the same data as Romania, for example, they are able to build their own analysis. Now, the time to insight has been reduced from weeks or months to hours, and this is how I measure this. When someone comes and asks, we need this new data source integrated. I told you earlier that we were first ingesting the data into the data warehouse, then we're building reports over it. Right now we're just pointing Dremio at it and joining it, maybe adding a reflection, and there you go. Within a day you have a proof of concept. You know if that data helps you or not. We have something that we call a campaign analysis, and the first proof of concept was built by my colleague here in less than a day. And then we were building on it for months. But we knew from that first day that it helps, that the model is useful. Otherwise, we would have invested months in it and then realized that it's useful or not. Also, data analysts can create new data sets for quick reporting or experimentation. And these are the people that spend more time with the business. They're not data engineers, but they are able to use existing data sets and create new ones. Now for some numbers that you get an idea. We are querying with Dremio over 1 petabyte of data, and that's only in the Hadoop data lake. I know there's more in the MySQL databases, even in the SQL server. We have 150 users per day running 30,000 queries. We're targeting 1,000 users directly or through the other tools that I mentioned. We saved 100 man days per month in business of manual exporting. You know, the people that were exporting data from ClickView. And we're still improving on that. We're still finding things to automate. And this is important. We had reports that had yesterday's data at 6 p.m. and now it's available at 8 a.m. in the morning when the CEO wakes up. He has yesterday's data. And we did that with minimal effort, just by not moving the data between systems anymore. And also, speaking of the reverse Conway maneuver, the BI team now is like this. We have 4 data platform teams that are handling all the infrastructure, and we have 9 stream-oriented teams that are building everything for a certain business domain, and they are doing data engineer, data analysis, building reports, dashboards. It's not that everyone is equally good at all these things, but you have all the capabilities within the team. And we have one data science team within our organization, our central organization, and several data science teams in the company, and I'm sure there are some that I don't even know about. For some future plans, we're continuing developments to make all data available in Dremio, because you never know how it's going to be used. We are trying to implement a lakehouse, testing Iceberg for that. We're having a hybrid infrastructure, and we need to have engines both on premises and in cloud, SQL engines, and we're also having data both on premises and in cloud, and we're looking at ways to make this work as seamless as possible. We had some lessons learned. We didn't have an admin team for Dremio in place from the start, and you do need that, a team that handles administration, monitoring, building reflections, making sure that things are not running and not being used. Also, we learned that it's valuable to isolate heavy use cases or heavy users on different engines, and you see that very fast. For example, data science teams tend to make very large queries, or some users, for whatever reasons, tend to make some large queries, and you just isolate them so they don't affect other users. It's important to set up observability and give people visibility to queries and load, because otherwise they will just complain that things are getting slower. But when you give them visibility and they see what kind of queries are taking most resources, they start optimizing for themselves. And also, it's important that you train people to know what's possible and what's not possible. And last but not least, maybe wait a bit and test the upgrades, because Dremio has this habit of bringing new features, very cool features, very often. And we said that we'll be waiting for a few weeks after each new release so that it gets stable. So that's all from me. Thank you very much. You can find Dremio at the booth here, and you can visit them, and you can ask any questions you have to me. I don't know if we have the time now, or you can find me on LinkedIn or Twitter or the normal channels. Thank you.